Hello and welcome to the Filthy Clean Pod. Today is episode 10 and I've got Jack Bowley from Howden Insurance. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Good. So, you're here today to break some of the myths and all the stuff that we think is boring about insurance. Is that correct in what I say there? But
yeah.
Just, but no, it'd be good to get into it. We've had a bit of a pre-chat, so you've opened my eyes already to a few things, so that's good. So, changed my opinion on some insurers out there already.
Won't say names.
But anyway, so if you could maybe just give us a bit of a background of yourself, like Howden and how you got there and all of that, that'd be great.
Yeah, cool. So I've worked for Howden for, I think it's just over 4 years now. I've started in insurance kind of 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago. I was working like a claims handling capacity. Moved to Howden's, or Howden Insurance probably 4 years ago now, just over. And they're a broker, so essentially the middleman between underwriters and the insurers, so the guys that are paying your money out if a claim comes in, and obviously yourselves as the consumer. So Howden Insurance has been going for 30 years. They're huge globally. They've kind of started a bit backwards in a way. So they started dealing with very, very huge risks rather than kind of dealing with the smaller stuff and like working up, as it were. And the reason we're involved is because they wanted a retail arm of the business. So it was A-Plan Insurance kind of prior to that. They wanted a retail arm. And they just kind of we merged in with them, became Howden Insurance, and now we're on the high street kind of set up of it, really. So there's you've got parts of Howden that they do like the Wembley Stadium and the mining in South Africa and the Sydney Opera House and things like that. Is kind of what they've dabbled in the past. But now you've got the retail side of things, where it's your car, your home, your van, your business insurance, and on the high street basically. So going 30 years was their celebratory year this year.
Cool. So, I mean, even prior to this week, I didn't actually realise the whole array of insurances that you do within the external industry.
Yeah.
Just tell us a bit about everything that you do within the external industry, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so it sounds really silly, but there isn't anything we can't cover, basically. So whether it be property damage and injury, whether it be injury to third parties or injury to yourself, kind of income protection policies, that kind of thing we can do. We can do the vans, the equipment, whether that be bolted, whether that be kind of free kind of used equipment like your kind of your telescopic poles and things like that, hose reels, that's covered, and we can do all of that. Like I say, employers liability, public liability, car, van, home. There really isn't anything, it doesn't need to go beyond the exterior cleaning because we want to keep it tailored to that. But there's nothing we can't do. There's no specific areas, and with regards to what you're doing, again, there's no limitations. There's no limits in heights. There's no limits in how you're doing the cleaning, chemicals you're using, where you're doing it. It depends on what you're doing, depends on how extreme we need to go with things. But we can do the full spectrum, as it were.
It's good to know. It's definitely good to know from our perspective, because I didn't even know you'd done the public liability, employer liability, all of that side of things, as well as tool cover and stuff like that, I guess was what you're saying,
Yeah.
So I'll definitely be chatting with you anyway at some point. But so with the so there's obviously a big thing. I asked for some questions yesterday, and someone said about the chemical use. So if a contractor's using a chemical that's not on the HSE's biocidal list, then would you cover that? I mean, do you want to talk a bit about the sort of chemical covers and what you've discovered and how you've been able to put that in place? And
yeah, cool. So the difficulty is, it's not black and white. That's the difficulty of it. It's a lot less murky than it was 5 years ago. We've I say it myself, done a lot of graft to really educate the insurers we're working with and get a really good understanding of what is being used in the industry, how it is and isn't used, what may be the right way of doing things, the wrong way, and kit being used. And chemicals is a huge part of it, because the minute you say chemicals or sodium hypochlorite or biocides, things like that, the minute you say that, the insurers want to do a runner and you won't see them again. So it's really kind of within that education. I would say in regards to chemicals you are or aren't using, or what you could and couldn't do, it's all going to be down to what is kind of accepted regulatory wise. So if you are using a product that is specifically manufactured for roof cleaning or that, just say that topic, and it says can be used for roof cleaning, and you're applying it in a way manufacturer guideline says applying it, you are absolutely fine. That is, you can't get more black and white than that. That is golden. If you are mixing up some chemicals at home and something goes wrong and you've created a solution that probably isn't going to do the thing it's going to be designed to do, you chuck it on a roof, it causes mayhem, it causes problems. The insurers, they're likely going to pay out for a claim because you've got innocent parties involved. So if you've got someone's roof has been damaged or someone's injured in a way because of it, they would more than likely pay out, but they're going to then look to seek redress from you, basically. So say it's for yourself, for example, your insurer will likely pay out because they're like, well, actually, we probably want to repair this person's roof. It isn't fair they're left without it. And maybe like the $5,000 they pay out for that, they're going to be saying to you, right, Steve, get your wallet out, mate, because you've got to reimburse us for this because you've knowingly kind of not done what you should be doing. I can't talk for every insurer, but the insurers we would use will definitely cover you, even if you make a mistake and should have known better. They will cover you for that. But if you are intentionally being reckless and doing what it's very clear in the industry not to do, you're going to have a difficult conversation. It's going to be hard to get you covered for it. So the trouble is you can mix so many things with so many different things. You don't know where you can go with it. I would say the safest bet is get chemicals from an approved supplier who's making approved chemicals that's on the list, and make sure you're using them as you should be using.
Sorry, when you say on the list, what do you mean?
You said the
the biocidal register. Because obviously there's a thing about that. If I'm honest, I'm not too clued up on who's on there and who's not on there. But yeah, I just get that sort of hammered into us as well about using this particular chemical because this particular supplier is on there.
Yeah.
But I guess where we're going with this is just, so if you were to go and buy biocide from, say, a general chemical place that it could be used for farm use, swimming pools, whatever it is, you're not mixing it, but you're buying it from there. Would that be covered? Would it not be covered? Or
it all depends. So it is so annoying because it is just not black and white. So it all depends. So the insurers will take a view, so they'll look at it. And the main thing I need to clear up as well is the role of an insurer is not to not pay out. The role of an insurer is to pay out where it's required to. There are so many regulations and different bodies involved. If there's a claim due to be paid, you've got to pay it, basically. So the insurers are going to take a view on each individual basis. They're going to look at it and say, was this chemical, regardless of where it came from, really, was it being used in a way it was designed to be used? Yes, I know there's chemicals you can use in swimming pools that would technically have the same effect if you chuck it on the roof, but equally, is that the way to do it?
Hypo is hypo in terms of like where you can buy it from. Obviously, there's suppliers out there that, how do I say it? That it's their own thing, it's their own brand, but essentially the makeup is still the makeup of it.
Yeah.
But if you've got you buy a barrel of hypo from a chemical supplier, you've got the SDS sheet that's on there. What's to say that would be a problem using that over, say, a supplier who can say this is whatever their brand name is, but effectively it's still the same thing, still the same SDS sheets and everything else. Is that murky water? Is it not? I don't,
Yeah, that's it. So if it's as straight down the line as that, there shouldn't really be any issues. There shouldn't be. But I guess really my point is more, if you at point of claim, if you want to have the absolute best chance of a claim being paid out, use a chemically approved, do you know what I mean? Kind of everything needs to go down the approved route. Someone said to me the other day, and I use it quite a lot since, is when you go skiing, if you chuck yourself down the mountain or you go down on skis, you get to the bottom of the mountain. It just depends on how rough you want to ride down there, kind of thing. So I think that's how you want to play. If you want to be 100% above board, have no issues and have no problems when it comes to claim, go down the fully regulated and regimented route with it.
Okay.
If you want to dabble, like you say, because you are right, hypo is hypo in a way. If you're happy to go down that route and you're confident how you're doing it is the right way of doing it, you're using the right chemicals and applying it the right way, again, if you've got that much confidence, in theory, that's right and you should be good as gold. But as I say, to protect yourself, that would be my main bit of advice for that, is just go down the fully regulated route.
Yeah, I mean, we use approved chemicals anyway, but I'm just saying that it's just I know it's a question that comes up all the time. There's particular suppliers that will just use hypo from a general chemical place, and then I know there's other suppliers who make their own, and but I'm not sure if they're all on the register. Again, it's not my forte really to go down that route, but it's just questions that I've been asked to ask. So, but yeah, I mean that does clear it up. It's still, is it open to interpretation? But I understand what you're saying. If you want it to be the most safest, effective way, is to definitely, buy it from an approved chemical supplier, and then we go from there. But I mean, for us, we don't use hypo on roofs anyway, but we use biocide. And that's that. But so are there any specific clauses or exclusions you should look out for when you're actually using a chemical on a property?
Yes and no. So again, annoyingly, yes and no. So with our insurers, so the insurers we use, if you work with us as your broker for the insurance, we know the industry, we know what is and isn't being used, we know how it's being used, we know how what equipment's being used. The insurers, if they do have any exclusions or conditions within it, if we haven't wiped them out already by having the conversation with the insurers, we will make you double aware that it's in there. So there are some people where we will say to them, do you work on industrial premises? And they say, no, 100% domestic. Okay, say no more. So we would be able to use an insurer that has an industrial premises exclusion, because you're never going to go there. So the amount of times I'll say to people, you're covered for everything apart from cleaning cars. That's your nuclear power plant, gas, all chemical places. Yeah. If you do, just tell me. I'll get it removed. It costs you a little bit more in premium. You ain't going to break the bank, but I don't want you paying that 30, 40 quid more if you just don't need it at the start. We can always I don't want to overplay it. We can always just do it when you need it. So that's what I would say. I can't talk for every insurer, but what I would say, after doing research to know our competitors and know why we should be saying you should move to us as your broker, is check the exclusions, check the conditions. It is 1,001 pages long, and they do that, I'm sure, for effect. I would just call the broker. Call whoever you get your insurance through, and just say, I use this chemical, I apply it in this way, I do, these are the processes I use. Am I covered to do it? And I mean, hopefully it's a yes, but if it's not, then you need to move on. But that's what I would say, because our job as a broker is to remove those issues for you, is to understand what your business is and make sure your policy fits it for purpose. There isn't really any we've got to skirt around, because we've normally done the work in the background anyway. But someone who isn't with us, 100% question your insurer, because they will put the onus on you, basically.
Okay. Yeah. So how do you assess then what chemicals are used if there is an issue? Like, is there a particular, do you know of any strategy or process that you would use to assess, what practices were used, how safety that was, and what chemicals were used?
So from our process specifically is I very much like to have an open conversation. So the company and the compliance team, God love them, have put bits and pieces together where you follow a bit of a process and ask questions. But mine's very much an open-ended kind of thing. So when I talk to people, I go, just talk to me. What do you do? What don't you do? And there's bits and pieces I'll pick up on. If they say, oh, well, because the amount of people you'll talk to and they go, I'm a window cleaner. You go, okay, cool, no worries. And you can set them up as window cleaning. And a bit before the end, you'll say something and it sparks them to say something else. You think, oh, hang on, that's not just windows though. I spoke to a chap the other day and I was like, any height work? No, my feet never leave the ground. I was like, are you sure? Because it's not a problem. He's like, no, never leave the ground. I rang him back to get money from him because he was happy to go ahead with it. And he went, hang on, I'll call you back. I'm on a roof. And I was like, oh, what,
did I just
what
say
do you
that?
mean? So that's the difficulty. So the process for us is very much, talk to me. What are you using? What are you not using? And we've spent a lot of time with a lot of different businesses within the industry, whether it be chemical manufacturers, whether it be equipment manufacturers, just trying to understand what products exist on the market and what using them looks like.
Okay.
That's our process.
So, but how do you actually evaluate that in a claim? So if someone comes to you, they've destroyed a roof or whatever they've done, how do you actually evaluate what their process is, what the chemical is that they've used? Do you know the structure to that? Do you know?
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah. So essentially, if someone calls me and says, I need to make a claim, I've caused damage, my questions, initially, is anyone hurt? Because that's your main priority, I guess. But beyond that is, okay, what were you doing? How were you doing it? What were you using? And then we'll go from there. Because if you were using an industry standard product and industry standard equipment, using an industry standard process, say no more. It's nice and easy. We'll put it through. If there's anything different to that, we'll start asking a few more questions. And it's not about trying to catch anyone out or anything like that. It's more just about understanding why, how, when, and I can then put that to the insurers, and that's how we deal with it on your behalf. Is essentially I need to be as if I was there. That needs to be my thing. I need to know your business as well as you do, and I need to almost have been there at the time. That's how I play it anyway. And then it's all just from there. You know, with us, 99.9% of the time, it's good as gold, and the only time it isn't is if we've not been told something by one of our clients, basically.
Okay.
But yeah, process is normally fine.
So what's the most common type of claim with roof cleaning?
It's actually, because I saw this when we went through the questions. It shouldn't be funny, but it's funny more than anything. It is, I don't like the colour of my roof. That is
Really?
Okay. I would say 90% of claims that come in.
Can't believe that they wouldn't tell the customer though the colour the roof's going to go. That just shows an experience.
No, it's not that. It's clean. It's just clean. That's it. So they'll have 50 years of just dirt build up on a roof after it's been, obviously the house has been built. You'll clean the roof, and it's not through any sort of chemical application that it's gone a funny colour. It's just the colour of the clean tiles.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying though. But obviously, you know, what we do, for instance, as soon as we see a roof, we can see, I don't know, there's a few ways that you can see what colour the roof's going to go, you know. So we would always explain that to the client that, look, you know, you've got a black roof at the minute. Yes, it's dirty, but when we clean it, it's going to potentially be a bright yellow, you know. Yeah. Just purely because that's the colour of the clean tile when it's taken the surface, once it's taken all the dirt away. So, and I'm just saying that I find that quite, what's the word? Yeah. I don't want to say laughable because that sounds bad, but it just, I think that sounds a bit of poor sort of education to me.
Could be, could be.
Especially like if you get man-made tiles, they'll go a bright white or grey. Yeah. It's just understanding the surface that you're working with and being able to explain what colour it's going to go to, you know.
Yeah, but, and that's very good because I have a lot of conversations with people and they say, what can I do to avoid it? And that'll go on the list because the test patches are great. And I don't think there's not someone, I suppose, where they don't do that. But
I think it just comes with experience, you know, because we've done lots and lots of roofs. And we've got a good catalogue of, obviously, the filming and everything we've done. Normally, by now, we can actually pick a job that's very similar to what we're just about to do and say, check that out, that's exactly what's going to happen with your roof, you know. To me, that sounds like a bit more of inexperience of people that maybe just do it as an add-on or haven't done many roofs or whatever it is. I don't know, you know, it just I couldn't believe that would be the most
I can't believe it is. I mean, you've opened my eyes a little bit, I'll be honest, because I think actually, and I'm not saying that these people that have had these claims, that isn't what they've done. Yeah. But that would probably solve a load of problems if you did go down that route with it, I guess. But the amount of there'll be a lot of back and forth between the property owner, and when you finally understand what their problem is, and the problem is you've cleaned my roof or you've cleaned something, whatever it is, and I don't like the colour it's gone. Yeah. That's
really, do you pay out for that sort of thing then?
No, not unless it's taken some sort of like a surface off of the tiles or slate or something.
Have you been able to prove anything like that, like taking any sort of surface off the tiles?
Definitely. Yeah, so the insurers will have what we call loss adjusters. Okay. So it'll be it could be someone like yourself. It could be someone that's had an exterior cleaning company and they've given it up and now they're working as a bit of a contractor for it and as a specialist essentially. And the insurers will just say, look, can we have your opinion from a neutral perspective? What do you think's happened? They won't give you any information. I'll just say to you, look, can you pop the site? What do you think's happened? And someone certainly, you know, from your experience and obviously the others out there can say, well, actually, it's because you've applied this, doing it this way, it's caused this issue.
Yeah, I'm actually quite shocked about that because we just find it quite a simple part of the quoting process. I mean, if you've got guys out there that I don't know, that they've just proven that they've done some sort of damage because they weren't expecting it to go to a certain colour, I don't know. I mean, obviously, in the early days, I suppose we would have been shocked at some of the colours because obviously we didn't really know what we were doing so much. But after doing it, you know, hundreds and hundreds of times, I think it's over 1,000 or whatever it is. We sort of can see really from the get-go what colour it's going to go, and there are clues to how that will go with bits of moss that are on the roof or whatever it is that have come away, and you can still see the surface colour. But yeah, so I'm personally pretty shocked about that, you know. But so do you find as well then? So what about the different processes? So I mean, there's such a big debate in the industry about pressure washing, steam, scraping, especially of roofs. Do you find that any of them cause, like any different processes cause more problems than not? Or
so I would say, if there was, and I don't want to, this is not my advice to the industry from a performance point of view, but if I was to say, if you want absolutely no grief given to you about water ingress in a roof, don't put a pressure washer anywhere near it. Because the minute you put a pressure washer near it, if there's any sort of water ingress issue, whether that be completely unrelated due to just a leak that was there to start with, or some sort of damping or something like that, there's a real easy link you can make between it, basically. Okay. The minute you start, I mean, pressure washing from a very low pressure, I mean, you can do this kind of hot washing as it were, isn't it? Where it's like low pressure but really hot temperatures. Yes, is obviously a bit different. But if you're blasting a good old amount of pressure at a roof tile, it just, again, it's one of those, I can't say don't do it, because there are some circumstances, and I'm not an expert in that sense. But what I can say is, you're going to have a nightmare trying to explain to insurers why you've done it. Yeah. It's that kind of thing, you know. And it says it, I mean, Karcher is probably the most simplest form of pressure washer you can get when you're looking at this industry. You know, it ramps up massively from there. And even on there, it says don't use it on a roof. And to me,
where does it say that? Sorry.
It's on the manufacturers. So it's on the website really? Okay. When you purchase it. It's in the handbooks on the box itself. It comes in, says like only used for like greenhouses, someone else, and it says on the box not used for roofs, or don't clean roofs, or something like that on there. And for me, a Karcher pressure washing bit of kit is the lowest you. I don't know, I'm trying to explain. Like, it can only get more intense. Do you know what I mean? There's only more pressure.
It's not industrial.
That's
exactly it's a domestic machine, so it's not going to give off the same pressure as what a full tilt 21 litre a minute sort of machine will do. But do you not think though that's? I mean, because I've actually looked at testing. I want to be able to test. We made a bit of noise with a particular video we looked at where the guy was saying about using a turbo nozzle over a flat surface cleaner, and I've actually looked into trying to get the theory tested. And funnily enough, the company that I found actually test all the Karcher pressure washers, and they've been able to. I don't know. They've got all these different test pads and stuff. Again, it's beyond my pay grade, you know. But but I'm just saying that potentially what it could be is just covering their own asses. You know, maybe, you know, I'm gluten free, but I can't eat Walker's crisp because it says may contain gluten. They're just covering their asses, you know. So I don't know if that's potentially what it is or not. But yeah, I mean, from a pressure washing perspective, cold pressure washing, full tilt, especially with some industrial machines, we totally agree. Tile manufacturers frown upon it, and they frown upon using steam cleaners as well. But in our experience, we find that that's a good, safe, effective way of using it. In answer to your question, when you said about if you want minimal risk as well, don't use it. We've had a couple of issues where we've used steam cleaning, and if we're honest, nothing's ever been claimed against us. Nothing's ever been able to be proven. There was one particular one, for instance, where this guy said that we flooded his bathroom. Just so happened that we had the biggest storm in the world, 48 hours before. The insurers went out and simply just said that, that's what would have caused it. It's nothing to do with the work we've done. So we find it safe. We find it effective. We've never had no drama from it. Like I say, a couple of little things, like we've had the odd, wet patch form somewhere, but then when we've gone into the loft, you can see that it's historical. It's not current stuff. So, but yeah, anyway, so no, it's but have you had a lot of claims then from the steam cleaning or pressure washing side of things then? Or
pressure washing, yes. Steam cleaning, no. So the scraping, very little.
How are they differentiated between the two then? Because obviously within the industry there is still this thing about you're using superheated water pressure washing as opposed to just cold pressure washing. So has it just been someone's used a cold pressure washer full tilt?
Yeah.
And they haven't used steam to try and emulsify. It's not emulsify.
I know what you mean. Break it up.
Break it up into condensation steam.
Yeah, just on a is it my tower, me tower, one of those? Just
with a pressure washer.
Just giving it large and it's gone straight in. But I think it was one of those where it was probably a relatively new company and maybe it's one of those you learn from it, but it was still paid out and the insurer still paid. There's no.
Are you only talking a couple of claims here then, or are you talking multiple?
So claims that have been paid out from that perspective, very, very, very few. But claims that have come in going, I don't like the colour of my roof after they've done it, not through any other reason than it's just clean and like you say, that's the colour the tile's going to go. That is by far your massive influx of claims. We get very, very few where windows are damaged. We get very few where there's patio issues. We don't get any knocked over flower pots. We don't get anything like that. There's nothing of that nature. It's just the roof.
So it's the roof that is the biggest risk. So in all other external services, especially in a domestic home, you don't find that there's really much drama, no?
And the difficulty or the thing I think that adds to it is, certainly with the roofs, is someone will go up in their loft and they'll see, like you say, a bit of a damp area, a bit of kind of water ingress, and there could be a storm, but as a homeowner or property owner, I'm pretty sure your mind somehow goes to, it must have been Steve's company 14 months ago that came in and done it. It must be from that, or it must have initiated that, and then every time it's rained since, it's just come in from there. So again,
one piece of helpful advice I always got, especially when we've had a couple of issues, like I say, where claims have gone, they haven't gone against us, but they've been opened, investigated, and haven't been paid out. The insurance companies actually said to us that what you got to understand is it's not up to us to prove our innocence; it's up to them to prove that we're guilty.
Yes.
So and that's what they've never been able to prove because when we've had not assessors, what do you call them?
Like loss adjusters.
When they go out, they've just said basically categorically no, it couldn't have happened because X, Y, Z. Okay, so what about then? Because there's obviously guys that are out on the internet that are gladly walking across roof tiles with their trainers or whatever it is, boots, but pressure washing quite happily, off they go. We've obviously tried to take the safest course of action because we employ but I wouldn't want to do that anyway, personally. But I'll probably go straight through the roof besides me. But anyway, it's so have you had any sort of claims of that, like personal claims, or anyone come off roofs or anything like that? Or?
Yeah, we relatively recently, to be fair.
Really?
A chap, essentially, it was an asbestos roof. A chap, he unbuckled his harness from the cherry picker and just opened the little gateway and stepped out, and it was, I think, the first step, and he straight through the top of it. So the guy survived. It's a big old claim going through, and it's like 6 figures, heavy 6 figures.
Wow.
Nearly 7. So it's big prices, and there's a lot. It's very,
an
very
individual
new.
that works for himself, or
no? It's an employee of a company, but it's very new. So we the insurers are still assessing because, as you say, rightfully so, it's down to the claimant to put forward the particulars of claim, and as you say, down to them to prove wrong, negligence. Essentially, they're still looking at that. They're still looking at what injuries have come off the back of it, what damage has been done. They're still looking at processes. So he's unclipped his harness, but was he told that was the way forward? Was there adequate training in place? Was the cherry picker okay? So, we're 6-7 weeks into this. It's going to be years before we get a full on, because again, with injury, you don't know where you stand with it for years and years and years, because something could crop up in 10 years time that was look at this asbestos stuff that's all coming around now, that's from years and years ago, isn't it? So there's a lot to it, but we've had a few, fortunately not a lot, because
that's it really, because again, it's just good to know. Firstly, what I would assume would be a problem is personal injury, especially on a domestic front. So we see, and we lose a lot of work to a lot of guys that will simply put a ladder up, get onto a roof, walk across the roof, pressure wash away. We can't compete with that because they're going to be in and out in no time. We're trying to do it safely and effectively. So it's just good for the industry, because a lot of people still say they do it. They've done it for years. If it ain't broke, why fix it, kind of thing. So have you found that a lot of people have come off roofs? Is there sort of statistics around that? Do you know? Or
not specifically statistics, but it happens. It definitely happens. And the more, and the most frustrating thing for us as a broker, because we're essentially, like I say, we're on your side. We want you to save money, because we get money because you come back every year, not because you're spending a stupid amount on one go. The thing we find as an issue is, unfortunately, I guess this is in life in general, there are very few people ruining it for everyone else, basically. You've got these people that would happily do that. You've got these people that are, they're just rocking up with a bucket and a sponge and chucking a bit of chemical on and Bob's your uncle kind of thing. And because of their inexperience, because of their lack of understanding and their lack of kind of care and consideration they cause more damage, they cause more injuries, they cause more issues. And because of that, the claims paid ratio goes way through the roof for these insurers. And because of those very few people, the insurers are paying a lot more money than they normally would out on claims. So next year, the insurers got to put their premiums up because they've got to cover their costs. So if you've got a few people that are causing those increased costs, the rest of you, unfortunately, got to pay for it. And it's frustrating. And again, it's what we're trying to change. But again, yeah, that seems to be a trend.
And so do you not look at that then as part of the, I don't know, like the health and safety side of it when you sign people up, or however you do it, because obviously once you come to a claim and say, yeah, I've hopped onto that roof, walked across it, slipped straight off. I mean, has anyone critically damaged themselves as well through that? Or is it more about damaging to the roof or to the actual, to the property they're working on, or to themselves?
It's both, to be fair. So there's a lot of heavy injuries that come from it. And it's always like 4 stories. No one ever falls off a bungalow roof. It's weird. It's always like they've fallen off 4 stories, or they've gone through a few stories, or it's always horrific. There's never, it's always extreme rather than anything.
Maybe they've come off of bungalow roofs but not caused themselves enough damage to maybe have a claim.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, that's the stats definitely suggest that the less care you take. It's obvious, really, I guess, but the lot more grief you have if you just don't take any care.
Yeah.
So
keep taking the care. It's just, like I say, I know a lot of people get precious about, how they've done things. They've done it for years. What's all the fuss? Everyone's health and safety mad now and everything else. But the way I've always looked at it is, at the end of the day, you work to, provide for your family, yourself, whatever it is. And if you can't go home at the end of the night, then, or the end of the day, what's the point? Just to try and earn a few quid.
Just flicking back to something you did say about the are there processes our end for like health and safety stuff. That is something we don't delve too heavily into it, because again, like you say, the health and safety gone mad, as it were, but it's used to our advantage in a way. So when we talk to people and go, look, talk to us about your business, what health and safety policy you got, wearing your PPE, all this good stuff. Essentially, we want to get an understanding of how seriously you take it. Because if you take it very seriously and you say to me, I've got, because I know a lot of it's a copy and paste job, but I've got RAMs for this, RAMs for that, I can do that, I can show you that. You go, brilliant. If you want to send them over, send them over. And then when I ring this insurer in a minute and say to them, this £5 million or 10 million, or however much you're going to get insurance for, when you're putting this up for them, just let you know, they do their health and safety assessments. And then the insurer's going to go, oh, okay, they're safer. We'll bring the premium down a little bit then, because they're just safer. So there's less chance of it causing a grief. Because our job is to sell your business and your processes to these insurers that are going to put their money up should something go wrong. Any ounce of anything I've got that I can use to your advantage, let me use it, basically.
So what about stuff like safe contractor and all the accreditations and stuff? Does that help? Or
massively? Yeah, because it just paints a really good picture. It's for the same reason you chuck it on the back of your van. You chuck it on your van not because you want safe contractor to know you're safe contractor, but you put it there because you want people to know you're not messing about. You're playing with the big boys kind of thing. You're good at what you do, and the way I see it is, and I can't talk for everyone, but the way I see it is, you've spent money protecting me. So you've spent money to become a safe contractor, or you've invested time, money, however you want to say it, to show your worth and to look after other people, rather than, you're only doing it properly because you want to look after them. It's not your house you're cleaning, and so the fact you've invested in that, to me, speaks volumes, which is why I say to people, people say to me, oh, should I go for £2 million a cover or £5 million a cover? And I'm like, well, for the sake of the 40 quid or whatever it costs, I'd chuck it on the 5, because no one else knows you've paid only 40 quid to do it. And to, Doris and her bungalow down the road, she's gone, wow, fair play. He's got 2.5 times the cover he should have got just to protect me. And you think, fair play. that's what I would do.
Okay. It's good to know. And to be honest, this feels like a sales pitch because everything you're saying is positive stuff. So I'll be giving you a ring when ours comes up for renewal,
That's it,
But no, like I said, I just didn't know you'd done all of this. Even though I've used Howden myself for years on the vans and stuff. It's just all good information to know,
Good.
Contractors feel like the renewal prices are plucked out of thin air. So, can you explain a little bit about why that isn't the case or is the case?
Yeah, well, no, it is the case. They just
It's Friday, I need a bit more cash.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. What do you pay last year? Chuck a bit on top of it, right? No, unfortunately, there are so many regulatory bodies in place. These insurers have really got to play the game properly. So I know we touched base on it as well, but essentially it all comes from how that risk is performed in the previous year or years, depending on how your algorithms are working as an insurer. So I don't want to go, if I go too far into it, let me know, because I don't want to go too deep. You have what you call common pool. So the insurer's income.
Lost me already.
Yeah. The insurer's income, it needs to cover operating costs. It needs to cover staff wages, expenses in that way. It needs to cover claims that are being paid out and an element of profit. I can't talk for all insurers, but I was talking to an insurer the other day and they said for every £1 they make, they don't want to spend 3p of it. So it's not that their margin's 97% or 99.7% or whatever it is, but that's the kind of setup. And they make their money through essentially the little bit of profit they make, they then just invest that. And that's where their real money comes from. And that's how they really make their money. So they need to make sure the premiums they're getting for that year just about cover costs. If they're taking a mick and they're just taking advantage of anyone just because they can, there are plenty of regulators in play, Financial Conduct Authority, the Financial Ombudsman Service, the Prudential Regulatory Authorities. They're all there to really keep an eye, because we're a financial institute, basically. So solicitors, banks, we're in that kind of, sat in that kind of table, as it were. So there are some serious boundaries you've got to play within. So if a risk hasn't performed very well that previous year, say you're an insurer and you insure red Vauxhall Corsas, and for the last year you've had nothing but claims from them, you're going to put your premium up because you see them as a higher risk than you did the year before. Now, another insurer may not have had any claims, just on the off chance, not had any claims for that year for it, so they'd think really favourable against those or for those cars, so they'd happily chuck a low premium at it. You've also got things like operating costs, as I said. So if you outsource a lot of your claims processes, you outsource a lot of the customer service stuff to it, or it's all online, you've got very little overheads, you can bring your premium right down. There are other insurers that have got so many customers, they cover the claims regardless, which is why you get some of these massive insurers. I can't name them because I don't know. I ain't squared with the legal team, but I don't want to name. But you get some of these insurers where they have millions and millions and millions of customers that they can just chuck any low premium on it they want to chuck on it because they cover their costs regardless. So they're not plucked out of thin air. There are some serious maths as to why they're put there. There are reasons that the policy can go from £1,000 to £4,000. There are reasons. It's ridiculous if you're going to try and stay with that unless you ain't got a choice, but there are reasons these prices fluctuate as much as they do, basically. It all depends on how the risk is performed in the previous years. It's difficult. I get it. Before I joined the insurance game, it seemed like a scam. It seemed like they're just chucking up because they can, and we joke, but it's Friday, let's try and get a couple of quid out of them more. I get that. But seeing now how heavily everyone is regulated, how heavy the fines are if things aren't being done how they should be done, these insurers are audited every year. And if these authorities think you're charging more on a premium you should have charged fairly, you're fined heavily for it. There are some serious repercussions for it. You
gave me a good example, like when we were talking before about if you had a company and I had a company, and you said that say we were insuring BMWs, and if I had a particular 5 Series BMW, whatever it was, and we had 10 claims against that last year, and then that premium for that car would potentially go up for everyone else. But then if you had another company and you only had one claim for a BMW 5 Series, you'd get a much better deal there because they think, we can give a heavily discounted price there because we haven't paid out so much on it. So that's it.
And that model fits exactly how we're able to do what we're doing with the exterior cleaning industry. We've come along and we've worked to understand what exterior cleaning is, what the full spectrum looks like, what the most hazardous work looks like compared to the most mundane kind of standard, very good risks, as it were, looks like. And we kind of sat a bit of a happy medium between them. We've educated these insurers and said, look, this is what it actually is. So when we say chemicals and when we say, sodium hypochlorite and biocides, things like that, it's not as scary as it initially sounded. And that's why we're able to put such a low premium on these policies, because the insurers actually understand it's not as scary as it sounds, and they're not performing badly at all. Whereas a lack of education would suggest they are performing badly because there's a chemical risk. It sounds horrific, but it's nowhere near as bad. So that's why they're not plucked out of thin air, and there is a lot behind it. But equally, as I said to you out there, I completely understand why people think that's the case, and that's what we're trying to do. We're really trying to, again, the sales pitch is coming out, but we're really trying to not it be kind of more of a human interaction with it, and explain that and go through it in a bit more detail, just to for everyone to understand it isn't just a game that's being played.
Okay, so are there any factors contractors can proactively manage to keep the renewal costs down? Yeah,
so for vans, security on vans. So if we can, if your van is sat in a locked compound, if you've got a tracker on it, if there's CCTV covering it, there's a million and one different things you can do to bolster security. If you've got it, we can use it to your advantage. We can speak to the insurers and say, there is a tracker on this vehicle. So straight away, the rating for theft could come right down, because we're going to get it back pretty quickly. We're going to find it in a ditch before it's set on fire, things like that. Those kind of factors. Security is a massive one. Health and safety measures you're putting in place, and again, risk assessments around your PPE, being able to send over proof of that, a massive help as well. That will certainly limit factors. And also maybe look at, if you're doing a specifically hazardous job, but you're doing one a year and you're making 3-4 grand from it, but yet you're paying an insurance premium just for that one element of cover, again, it may be whether you consider doing the work or whether you don't bolt it in until you need it.
So what do you find hazardous work to be then? Do you know what?
Safety critical. So for us, hazardous work, it's not so much chemicals. For us, hazardous work is location more than anything. Okay. So how wrong can it go wrong is basically what you need to look at. So if you're working on a nuclear power plant, but you're just cleaning the tarmac in the car park, no problem. If you're in the situation room and you could accidentally lean on the button that sends everything nuclear, you're banging trouble. You're going to be paying a premium.
You've watched too many Simpsons.
That's
mate.
it. Yeah, that's it. That's what's going to happen. If you're rail side and again you're cleaning the car park of a railway station, no problem. But if you're the other side, what we call rail side, so you're in and amongst it and you're cleaning platforms and things like that, and one of your employees, or you could take a tumble, or you knock someone off onto the live rails, that's hazardous for us. So we would say location is more of a hazard than anything else.
So it's just weighing up how much it brings you into how much it's going to cost your insurance.
Yeah. And whether you tell your insurance, but whether you don't get that element of it until you need it, we can always bolt it in after, basically.
Okay. So with like van insurance, for instance, I mean, again, there's a lot of sort of to and fro in between. So like in the window cleaning world, for instance, DIY installations, and then obviously you've got your crash tested systems, and then your suppliers that fit them that are not necessarily crash tested. So how does all of that sort of affect insurances for the sort of three different?
So it affects it, but for us, it affects it in a way of who we use as your insurer, basically. Okay. So I've heard noise that there are some insurers out there that only want crash tested systems. Mm-hmm. That isn't us. There is no, in the moment, we can't see it on the horizon that there's any requirement for any sort of crash testing needing to be done on these with these kind of rigs in the back. It all comes down to what the current situation is with it. Depends on what insurer does or doesn't like it. So some insurers love a strap tank. They hate bolted. Some insurers love bolted.
A strap tank? What do you mean?
So you can strap it down.
What, with just ratchet straps?
Essentially, okay. Yeah, you can strap it down. There are some that are happy with that, and some
really?
and some that don't like it bolted. Reason they don't like it bolted is because when you bolt it in, you could go through brake lines, you could go through like some sort of safety elements of the van, you can ruin the structural integrity of the van. So in doing that, some insurers see that negatively and they go, we'd rather not take the risk. Strapped is just better for us. Other insurers say there's more chance you're not strapping it properly. Something could go wrong, so they go, we prefer bolted. Some insurers will say if you've got a certain literage of tank, you need to have I cannot think of the word, but basically a big old metal lump between you and the cab, so between the cab and the water tank itself, something to stop it flying through the front when you kind of anchor up on the brakes, or so there's some insurers that if
I find that all quite bizarre really, because it's not like they've even tested all of these, like having I know exactly what you mean, I can't put it into words myself, but having a bar put up, what's to know the structural integrity of that when it gets hit by a tank, that's going to stop I'm just saying there's no tests here to say why you would do that or why you would do this, but personally I would have thought the crash tested systems would be the way, because at least then you've got some sort of clarity about what's going to happen.
You could test it in a way that it's just physics, because you'd know the weight, the momentum, and then the holding strength for the bar. So if you was to say it's a certain metal, you'd know the worst case it's 500 litre, so you've got the weight straight away. Worst case you're travelling at 70 miles an hour. I mean,
70, you're going to be dead.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you go, right, okay, so what stopping force is needed? And so I guess there's a way, but I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of how these insurers have come to it. So, but there's essentially, and again, that's our job. I need to make that clear. This is not your problem. As the customer of ours, or any insurer, in theory, it's not your problem, it's our problem. You tell me what you got and I'll tell you what I can insure it for.
So that's what we're saying. So it's not like specifically, go get a crash tested system because it's going to give you 30% cheaper or whatever it is.
Definitely
it's just
not.
on a case by case basis.
Case by case,
Okay.
And the reason we've done that is because we don't want to penalise anyone that's gone down a certain route, because you could go, insurance isn't the first thing you think of, and I know that, and I know I'm in the game and I know I should think that, but I know that insurance isn't top of the agenda as much as I'd want it to be. So you could go really deep. You could buy a van, you could buy exterior cleaning round, window cleaning round, you could buy all the kit, and you could be ready to go. You insure it and someone goes, it's got to be crash tested, and you're like, I've now got to wait however long to get it crash tested, and on top of that I've then got to make sure it passes that, and then I've got to pay a premium for it. So we want to try and remove that delay and that problem that could happen if we just say, what have you got, and we'll just deal with it. It's not a problem, and there's no specific premium that's more expensive. So like I said, we'll just go with a better offering.
So have you actually found any, again with claims, have you found any real disastrous cases where something is strapped into the back of a van and it's gone through the cab, or like other crash tested systems, or even other systems that are just fitted that aren't crash tested? Have you had anything where it's lifted off or come off the floor, or any real disastrous things you've ever seen? Or
not for me personally, no. Not for me personally, no. And the premiums that are calculated with these vans that have the kits in the back, they're not calculated from a potential danger point of view. The only real risk factor that you take into consideration is the stopping distance and your ability to brake when you've got such a big amount of weight in the back. That's the only sort of risk factor in that sense. The rest of it is all down to the cost to put it right. So that's the way you look at it. That's where the insurers will put a bit of a higher premium on it, because I can't talk for all the insurers, as I say, but the ones we use, they will cover the kit in the back. If you want your kit covered as part of the overall van costs, we will do that. And in doing so, that means the insurers haven't just got to pay out 15 grand for a van. They got to pay 8 grand for a kit that's been put in the back. Then they've got to pay for the kit to be put in the back. And then they've got to put you back in the position you were in before it all started and before it all went wrong. And that's where your premium comes from. That's where the specialism comes from, because they're looking at calculating what it's going to be to put you back to where you were beforehand, not what could potentially happen to the van, with the front, when the tank going through the front.
Well, I was just thinking more about critical injuries and you know, people that basically died or had some sort of critical injury from a tank going through into the cab or anything like that. So
no, but the only thing we had was a hose reel go through once.
Oh, really?
It just went, because you got it's MDF, is it? But there's a bit of wood, isn't
Could
there?
be, yeah.
And it just went through and just whacked. There was 3 people in the van. It was one in the middle, just whacked him in the back of the head. But fortunately, it weren't horrific. But again, that's the only one where I know where it has happened.
Oh, okay.
I guess you can talk about it could happen, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, interesting to know, because I thought there'd be definitely more, at least, a fatality or something like that. But
yeah, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah. This is where I go back to the office Monday and they go, "What are you on about? We were tender last week." Yeah.
So what's one misconception you'd like to clear up within the cleaning industry?
The one for me is the insurance is being provided by some providers. So it's not so much a misconception of if you do this, it's that. There are 2 actually. There's one where I'll clarify that after. So the first one is, I would say, when you are insured as an exterior cleaner, make sure the insurer knows what exterior cleaning is. That is for me the biggest misconception, that you there's a trust that your insurer is covering you for what you're saying they're doing. 99% of the time they're not. We have to know our competitors, we have to know what's out there on the market. We do our research, and our research has shown a lot of people are banging trouble because they are down as exterior cleaning, they're down as window cleaners, but the minute they cause damage to the property they are cleaning, they are definitely not covered. So you'll be covered for the neighbour's property, you'll be covered if you drag the hose pipe over a car and cause a problem, if you squash the cat you're covered, no problem. But the minute you damage what you're cleaning, you aren't covered. And I'm sure the reason for that is because that's most likely going to be what the claim is going to be if it comes in. That for me is a huge misconception. Just check it. Just check it. Don't trust that these insurers are going to actually know what you're doing. And I've said it before many a time that just ask them what exterior cleaning means. Call your insurer and say, I'm an exterior cleaner, what does it mean? And let them tell you what it means. And if they go, then they ain't got a clue and they're not covering you properly. That's my main one. The other one, and I see a lot of this, and I didn't think it'd be a big deal, but I see a lot of talk about it, is the homeowner needs to have insurance. I don't know where that's come from, and I don't get it. I see a lot of talk where people say, if you're going to go and clean a property, you need to make sure the property owner has insurance or any claim you have isn't covered. That just isn't true. Yeah, I'd say I didn't think I would hear it, and I thought it was a one-off a couple of years ago, but I hear it a lot, and a lot of people will ask me that question. It just isn't right. You are definitely covered. If you have insurance, it doesn't matter whether that property is insured or not. If you have insurance as a contractor to go and do the job, you are covered, your employees are covered, providing you've got the insurance, you're good as gold.
This might be a bit off the cuff, but all I was thinking there is that there was a thing I was always told years ago, I don't know if it's a myth or not, but I was always told if you had an accident on the customer's property, so say you're working on a ladder, you come off the ladder, you hurt yourself, you cripple yourself, you could basically sue that customer for letting them use the ladder on their property. Do you know anything about that, or is that just a bit? I
can see it happening, but it wouldn't stand up anywhere. No, you wouldn't, because you're doing it as the expert. If I was to, as the property owner, say to you, "I'll put your ladder there and clean that there," you'd be going, "Well, hang on, no, I know what I'm doing. Like, leave me to it." So yeah, it wouldn't stand up. It'd be silly. It's almost like, yeah, well, he told me to shoot him. Well, no, you should know. That's
Okay. Just threw it out there. Yeah, just as you were talking, it's something that I've heard years ago, quite a lot actually. It's a bit of a urban myth. Yeah. But yeah. So what sort of regulatory changes do you see emerging through the insurance industry for exterior cleaners?
Maybe not so much regulatory wise, but the newest thing that I'm seeing, and it scares me horrifically, but I know I've got to get really ahead of the game with it, is the usage of drones. Now, drone surveys, no problem. Drones...
Hold on, Dave. Not now. Go on.
The drones that are being used to take before and after pictures, drones that are being used to, look at, like I say, surveys, things like that, fine, no problem. If you need insurance for it, we can cover it. But at the moment, there's still not enough information around these drones that are applying chemicals and drones that are pressure washing premises. I've seen it in action.
I've seen the videos, but I've not actually seen them.
I've seen it in real. I always thought it was like AI, but I've seen it at the cleaning show we were at. I saw it, and it all looks Parker. It looks good, but where it hasn't been around for long enough yet, insurers don't know. It's this thing again. If I'm boring you, tell me, but it's called a homogeneous exposure. Okay. So it's basically a set of risks that are very standardised to that one event, and you don't know what that's going to be until you've had like 5 years of data on it. So at the moment, we're looking at these drones being used, and it's not a huge amount that are being used, to be fair, but the potential of them being used, and we're going, well, what could go wrong? Because essentially what you're doing is you're sending a bit of kit that's normally on the ground up in the air. There's 1,000,001 potential straight away from that. Do you need a drone license? Do you not? What if you're operating near an airport? What if you're operating that drone near an airport? It shuts the airport down. It's an airport like Gatwick. Where does your liability stand?
Through knowing what we know with drones, for instance, we've done a lot of work in Luton, where you got Luton Airport, and I know that basically the drone just won't go up. It's so Dave could probably explain a bit better, but this is my understanding, that, yeah, when you're in certain airspaces, I don't think the drone can go up. I probably got this wrong now and I'm going to look like a dick, but yeah, I'm sure that's what he said. Or you get warnings to say it can't go up, it can't go up. But I'm sure it actually can't go up if I'm honest. But so I don't think there could be any damage caused that way, is my understanding. But like I said, I could be totally wrong with that. But no, I get where you're going with that, and I'd never really thought about it, because especially if pressure washing isn't going to do as much harm as obviously spraying some sort of chemical, and with that thing being up, however many feet, and you're going to have wind drift and everything else. So so are they getting more popular then? I mean, you saw I've never seen one in action, so I don't know. But
yeah, we're getting a lot more. We're getting a lot more questions of, can I use it? Am I insured to use it? And the answer is, well, not in the moment, but I can get you covered on it. And we're yet to kind of get in front of one of these suppliers and get a good understanding of it. And again, not from a don't do it point of view, from a let us understand it point of view, because the last thing I'd want to do is put you with an insurer that isn't happy with that, and we didn't know they weren't happy because we didn't know what you were doing with it. We want to really understand what it means to use the drones. We know what it means to do the surveys. We get that. The before and after is brilliant. No dramas. But it's the using it to apply the chemicals, to apply the actual water itself. That's where it's it's still not enough of an understanding from an insurer point of view, and we just need to work out, because like you said, a bit of a wind drift, the next thing, the chemicals are going around, and it's...
Or if there's a malfunction or something,
that's what I mean, it covers the lot, and it's... We doing it, if that happens, you're gradually coming back into that... Do you know, over in America, they kind of just stand at the driveway and just blast the chemical on the roof. We're kind of moving into that territory a little bit, and it ain't going to work out well. So, yeah, that's something we need to keep and we are trying to stay ahead of the curve, and we've got our finger on the pulse with it. But
have you not actually insured anyone to use them then? No?
Not yet. No. We've had a lot of questions, but no one's ever said, "Yep, crack on and do it." So,
have the policies been far too much? Have you got prices on them?
Yeah, we got prices on them. We have got prices on them.
Don't worry about that.
But yeah, that's it. Maybe I did have a chat with someone. What did they say to me? They said, that's more expensive than my car insurance. Well, yeah, but you ain't flying your car, are you? A lot more damage to be caused. But yeah, we'll see. The more it gets used, the more I'm sure we can explain it to insurers and get them on board.
It's been really good today. It's been great meeting you. So if you'd like to get in touch, would you like to just maybe talk down the camera and say how they'd like to get in touch with you? Or
Yeah. So to camera. Yeah. I'm on Facebook. That's my main platform. Telephone numbers. Email, telephone. Pop in and see us if you're in Oxfordshire way, I guess. But essentially, anything we can do, just let me know. That's my message to anyone. Is I want to take your money, of course we do, but we want to look after you more than anything. We want to get rid of the misconceptions. We want to get rid of this idea that it's just a fraud going on left, right, and centre. We want to get rid of the scam idea of things. We want to help the industry. The industry's done us a big favour and allowed us to get involved and be a part of it, and we just want to help everyone else, basically. So yeah, Facebook's probably the way forward. If you find me on Facebook and message me, that's my favourite form of communication, because I can get back to you at any point. Then the office hours are 8 till 5. Normally when I've just woke up in the morning, or I can jump on it then and quickly just answer people. So that's that's what I'd say. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on, and it was actually more interesting than you made out it was going to be.
That's it. Yeah. If you set up it's going to be rubbish, then everyone's always impressed.
Setting the expectations.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But no, thank you for coming in. So hopefully you enjoyed that and you got some good tips and advice from there. I know I did, so I'll be talking to Jack again. But thank you for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, share, and all them good things. And until next time, I'll see you later. Cheers then.